Happy New Year's, everybody, and Tony here with my look back on A Grizzly New Year's Tale, The Crystal Eye from Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids, which aired on CITV on December 31, 2004. This was directed by Simon Bohr, Sarah Bohr, and Jamie Ricks, and it was also written by Jamie Ricks. And this is my personal belated Boxing Day / early New Year's Eve gift to all of you guys, whether you have been my subscribers for many years or have been casual viewers of my content or are completely new to my channel. This is dedicated to all of you, especially those of you who are major fans of Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. It's been 4 years since I last talked about Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids, considering that I made a review of this show as well as counted down some of my most favorite episodes of all time. I've been wanting to revisit Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. However, because of real-life priorities as well as personal obligations, those prospects have been pushed to the back burner for who knows how long. However, now, since this is the final week of December, I'm using every last drop of my holiday magic to talk about some of the New Year's specials that I caught ever since I was a kid, all the way to when I was in my late teens. And we're kicking off with The Crystal Eye from Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. I remember catching this one and not being too overly impressed with the animation, considering that the character designs and the character models looked quite unappealing, and this was also going to the Flash animation direction, which was also foreshadowing of what direction the 5th and the 6th seasons were going to. So this meant that it was goodbye to the 2D animation that I personally loved from seasons 1 to 4, and hello Flash animation, especially where seasons 5 and 6 were concerned. Overlooking my thoughts on the animation, at least I knew that the story was going to be really good, and this one actually exceeded my expectations, though with a few reservations where the whole package was concerned. The concept of having a good twin and a bad twin is not anything new, but the Crystal Eye knew how to play with this age-old concept and make it in a way that was fun and absolutely involving, especially since a gypsy from a faraway land has something very special for one of the boys. And it's not just her crystal eye alone, but also a mysterious mirror. So we have our main twins, Finn, the good twin, and Fick, the bad twin. Finn is generous, kind, loving, and very helpful towards his parents to the point where he is an absolute goody two-shoes. His brother Fick, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. He's selfish, he's greedy, he is absolutely inconsiderate, and he is a little shit of a demon. In fact, for those of you who know German or who are also native speakers of German, you'll automatically recognize that Fick's name is the German word for the F word. So this German expletive perfectly describes Fick. An absolute, complete, and utter fecking arsehole of a person. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Fick, who comes off as unlikable and irredeemable as possible, especially all the way to the very end. What he does in this episode is utterly deplorable. He doesn't want to share any of his toys with Finn. He wants a whole lot more toys than Finn ever has, doesn't want to share with his own twin brother, and would even go out of his way to slice whatever Finn and Fick had in half, just to say that at least he's sharing, and he is such a complete hypocrite. He even tells Finn that he's so mean, when in actuality, Fick is the mean one. All of this especially comes to a head when the gypsy flips a coin and transports it to the area where Finn and Fick are. Finn at first wants to pick up the coin, but Fick picks it up, and it ends up scalding and scarring his hand. This also comes into full swing in New Year's Eve, where Finn, his mom, and dad are making New Year's resolutions, and they even plead with Fick to make his own New Year's resolutions, but he's not really that interested, as he just wants everything to be his and his alone. That is until the gypsy arrives at Finn's and Fick's family's doorstep does she deliver a mirror. Sure, the mirror doesn't have any effect on Finn, but once Fick arrives and the gypsy drops the coin on the hand that had that scalding scar, it was a perfect match. And the mirror does something incredible to Fick, especially where the inscription Lex Talionis, like for like, is concerned. This inscription is also significant because this is a microcosm of what is going to occur should Fick not mend his ways and even get along with his brother. It also comes to show both of the boys' true inner selves, with Fick being the devil that he is, and Finn being the absolute angel that he is. Even more, Fick also has a reflection of his better half, who even chides him that if he does not mend his ways, he will end up being sucked into the mirror by these mirror zombies. And he's even introduced to the world of the mirror, where he is also shown a reminder of all the bad deeds that he has done, especially where the Christmas stockings are concerned. In order for Fick to get more presents, he washes that one stocking with high heat in the washing machine and extends the other one with it being tied to a car and the garage door. Sure, Fick thought that he was clever for doing so, but these were actually his dad's stockings. And come Christmas morning, Fick does receive a whole lot more presents, but he has no need for them, or so he thinks he needs them, but he ends up discarding them. And the only thing Finn has is nothing more than a walkie-talkie. So with this revelation, courtesy of Fick's better half, he even warns him that should he not change his ways, he will come to get him, that's for sure. Even as everything intensifies and Fick breaks the mirror, he tries to be good and he tries to be generous to Finn, but it seems like it is all for naught as he goes back to his wicked ways. When he runs back upstairs, the mirror is still intact. That means that his punishment has just begun, as the gypsy also reveals herself. A chainsaw then splits Fick into two, one with his bad half and the other with his better half in the flesh. Since Fick has not learned his lesson, he ends up being pushed into the mirror with his better half still outside and taunting him by doing a silly little dance, which was also the major highlight of this particular episode. Fick finally getting his just desserts because of how much of an asshole he was, not only to his brother but also to his parents, and Fick's better half coming out on top to teach him the lesson that he really deserved. And as Finn arrives, he even has a nice heart-to-heart with Fick's better half, and I definitely like him. He's a lot more charming than Fick the asshole will ever be. Fick in the mirror then turns into a zombie, and Finn and Good Fick are playing board games much to their parents' delight. And since in their eyes Fick has turned good, they decided to reward him and his brother with a shopping spree to New York. Now here is something that I kind of find a bit of an issue with. Oh sure, throughout the duration of this episode it was snowing. However, since Finn, Fick, and their family are in New York, you also expect it to snow. But here, it's not even snowing. In fact, it looks like it's still fall. By any normal standards, New York should also be snowing, albeit a whole lot more than in England. With that minor detail aside, at least we get a very satisfying conclusion with Finn, Good Fick, and their family in New York doing all the shopping and even enjoying that very moment, and the gypsy driving her caravan away. And of course, with the nasty, no good Fick turn into a zombie in the mirror as the credits roll. So the main story involving Finn and Fick, i.e. the good twin and the bad twin, may be a tale as old as time, but what it managed to do was a whole lot of fun, especially by adding in a very mystical element with the gypsy and of course the bad twin's better half being shown into full light as a sort of mirror of what he could have been and more. And you would think that Fick would redeem himself, but nope, too bad. Every time he tried to do good, he ended up biting his tongue, screaming in silence, as if his self-entitled ass still believed that it was still not fair. When in actuality, Fick was really selfish, and he definitely got his just desserts. And Good Fick was a stern reminder of that. The ending was also really sweet as we see Finn and Good Fick get along with each other and be like true loving brothers, thus making me at least appreciate this episode a whole lot more. However, there has been one attribute that has been troubling me even after I watched this episode, which served as the final episode of the 4th season. What about Uncle Grizzly and Spindleshanks? We would have loved to see what their New Year's rituals looked like, let alone what their Christmas Eve rituals looked like. That would have been fun. That would have been really fun to see Uncle Grizzly and Spindleshanks have a go at each other and how they spent the New Year's with each other. That would have been so great and would have made this episode a whole lot better. That was the only issue I had with the Crystal Eye, because I will reiterate, Uncle Grizzly and Spindleshanks were the soul of Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. Without Uncle Grizzly and Spindleshanks, you might as well not have this show exist, which was why I gave seasons 5 and 6 not really that much of a look back, and also a slightly lower score because they lacked the involvement of Uncle Grizzly and Spindleshanks, and the less said I could say about season 7 and 8, the better. Regardless, the Crystal Eye was still fun, and it managed to maintain that Grizzly Tales awesomeness, with that one caveat being that I could have loved to have Uncle Grizzly and Spindleshanks involved in this episode and see how they celebrate their New Year's and have their signature banter also come into life, because, as I stated before, and I will state once again, they were the heart and soul of Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. Overlooking that little caveat, this was still a very enjoyable episode, especially those of you who are major fans of Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. And if you are a fan of Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids, then please, by all means, give this one a go. You will definitely have a lot of fun with how this show managed to play with the old concept of the good twin and the bad twin, and even having the bad twin have a better half who ends up replacing the bad twin in order to make his family a whole lot more complete. And for those of you who enjoyed the Crystal Eye from Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids, what'd you think of it? Did you really love the concept of Fick getting his just desserts, especially when his better half ends up taking over his life? Was there a moment that you really enjoyed? Or did you feel like this New Year's special was not to your liking? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's it for my look back on the Crystal Eye from Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. Tune in much later for my tribute to Let's Celebrate from Popeye the Sailor. So until then, Happy New Year's, everybody!